Do you think it was her parents? Do you think it was that German pedophile from, well, Germany, who did it? Do you think it was Epstein and his friends? If you were to ask me, I'd say I don't fucking know. But in this video, we are going to get into every single possible scenario, or most of them, surely, that could have happened to little Madeleine. So let's get into it. Madeleine was on holiday from the United Kingdom with her parents, Kate and Gary McCann, her twin 2-year-old siblings, and a group of family friends. One night, the McCann children were left in their hotel room while Kate and Gary went to dinner with friends. They were sleeping in the ground floor apartment while their parents were only a couple of meters away dining at a restaurant. Apparently, and we're gonna take this with a grain of salt, the children were checked on every 30 to 40 minutes until Kate McCann found Madeleine to be missing from her bed. The window open and the curtains blowing in the wind. For years now, all kinds of theories have swarmed, and don't expect me to be doing anything groundbreaking in this video. I'm not going to be finding Madeleine McCann's abductor within the next 30 minutes. I'm just here to supply facts and theories about the case so that you can form an opinion on your own. And I know you guys are always so curious about what I think about literally everything ever in the world, because my opinion just holds so much power. So I will be giving that at the end of the video. As I said, for a long time, both parents were suspects in this case, but this was dismissed due to a lack of evidence. However, I'm not sure if I quite believe that, and very soon we will get into why. Shortly after the charges against her parents were dropped, or not charges, I guess suspicions, whatever, it was then announced that the case will be treated as a criminal act by a stranger, and was most likely a planned abduction. Okay. Years after vanishing, pictures were released to the public of a man carrying a child toward the beach on the night Madeleine vanished. Shortly after, Portuguese police reopened the inquiry, and in 2020, German authorities declared Christian Bruckner their prime suspect for the abduction and murder of Madeleine McCann, but no charges have ever been formalized. However, and this is where things get real interesting, photos were released of a possible woman, of interest in the Madeleine McCann case. This is the photo of the wanted person. Does she look familiar? This is Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you know who she is? She was a very close friend of Epstein, and I'm not so sure I need to explain who Jeffrey Epstein is. However, this has raised many questions over the past few months, but the big glaring one is, was Epstein involved with Madeleine's disappearance? I'm gonna go over everything that I can with this case. Before we get into her parents and Jeffrey Epstein, I want to talk about the guy that German officials have said is the abductor of Madeleine McCann. And then afterwards, I will get into Epstein. Before we start, take everything I say about, well, everything in this video with a grain of salt, but do take what I say about Christian Bruckner with a grain of salt, please. He is a convicted serial rapist and pedophile, linked to this case by phone records to the Portugal area at the time of her disappearance. He has completed multiple rounds in jail, one of which was for the raping of a 75-year-old woman. For a long time, people believed it took place at the same resort that Madeleine McCann stayed in. However, I don't believe that to be true. In October of 2024, he was acquitted in a German court of multiple unrelated sexual assault charges, weakening the immediate legal standing of prosecutors. There is a lot of circumstantial evidence tying Bruckner to the Madeleine McCann case. No evidence actually proving he truly committed the crime. Without a body, though, it's hard to blame anybody for anything. He worked at and burglarized the resort. He has a large criminal record that consists of sex crimes against children, and not children. He was a known associate of Martin Ney, who was a German serial killer and sex offender. Friends of his have been telling the police his name for years. His best friend even said that he had plans to steal a child and sell her to a trafficking gang in Morocco. He's suspected to be behind the disappearance of Ian Garrick, who went missing at the age of 5 in Germany. Christian's property was even searched in regards to that suspicion, and he has been seen in many comment sections, many comment sections, talking about snatching a child, and he changed ownership of his vehicle the day Madeleine went missing. Is him in comment sections reliable information? No, because people talk about their fantasies on the internet all the time. Does it necessarily mean they're going to go through with it? No. we have proof that he's literally a convicted serial rapist of children and apparently elderly women. So I mean, technically it's not like you can use that as like official evidence or whatever the fuck, but in my opinion, I do think that that is evidence. Not enough evidence, but it certainly should be used as evidence. He apparently, allegedly, told his girlfriend's dad that he could transport children in his camper van. In truth, though, none of this links him directly to the case, and it really is all just a matter of circumstance, which is why they can't and likely won't charge him with anything. Circling back to Martin Ney, he emerged as a significant person of interest in the Madeleine McCann case around May 2019, when he was serving time in prison for the murder of 3 boys. Ney was in Portugal when 3-year-old Madeleine vanished in 2007, and he fits the profile of a suspect who targeted children in holiday rentals. It's like everything, every suspect and every theory I am going to talk about in this video has so much potential evidence linking them to the case. It's mind-boggling. He has admitted to being involved in other cases with children, but he has never admitted to being involved with Madeleine, which makes you think, if he was involved with Madeleine, wouldn't he just admit it? Because he's admitted to literally every other thing he's ever done. So, it is possible that Bruckner is involved in the case with links to Epstein. And by that I mean being an apprentice for Epstein, being a fall guy for Epstein. Sniffer dogs picked up a scent with a car pickup drop-off location, suggesting that she was probably transported somewhere else. As I just said, literally everyone agrees that he would have been the perfect fall guy. As for the sketch from earlier, in July 2020, after Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested for her many crimes, a witness told the FBI that they saw a woman looking just like Ghislaine Maxwell, with a girl who looked just like Madeleine McCann in late 2009. And also in 2009, 2 men came forward and said they saw a woman who looked eerily similar to Ghislaine Maxwell in Barcelona on May 7th, 2007. She was in New York at the time of May 3rd. She was not actively on the same continent as Madeleine and her family. It is very likely that Ghislaine flew in from New York into Barcelona after Madeleine went missing. Ocean Club Resort and the area Ghislaine was seen in, Port Olympic, are 13 hours by car, 18 by train apart. That's how long it would take for her to travel to Ocean Club Resort. And I'm not saying this to allude to the fact that she was the one who kidnapped Madeleine out of her bed, but more to say that she was in fact on the same continent within traveling distance, and with the amount of connections she and Epstein had. It's a tad suspicious. I'm gonna leave that there, okay? Allegedly. This is all alleged. I don't want to get shot down in the street, dog. As for the 2009, maybe Madeleine sighting, the child was covering one eye. The same eye that Madeleine had a mark on. The woman with her also had an Australian or New Zealand accent. Ghislaine Maxwell has a British accent. And British accents and Australian accents do get mistaken for one another all the time. I do it all the time on my job. It is known, however, that Epstein and his colleagues preferred white children the most. And in the files and emails, they are very racist. It is very likely that the girl pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell in 2009 could have just been one of the other many young, very white, very female victims of Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell being in New York at the time of Madeleine McCann's presence in Portugal does not necessarily completely deny a link to this case, but it is also very unlikely that Ghislaine herself would be doing any of the dirty work. She was very close to Epstein, and their whole friend group kind of works as like a hierarchy, and it's like, the elite of the elite and the people actually, like, committing the crimes are, I'm, like, scared to say, like, the wrong thing. The people actually committing the crimes and doing the things, I don't think that they would be actively snatching children off the street. Regardless, I don't think Epstein would be sending Ghislaine to do his bidding for him, as she was in on it just as he was. She's as guilty. If we can connect this case to Epstein, I don't think it would be through Ghislaine Maxwell. The sketch is just another piece of the very confusing puzzle. The very, very confusing puzzle, actually. And this is part of why Madeleine has not been found yet. There are so many twists and turns in this case, just like John Bennett Ramsey. Oh, John Bennett Ramsey. That is another video for another day. I want to mention the Epstein files, as I feel it's important. There is an email, unredacted, to the sender and recipient, so we have no idea who this conversation took place between, about Madeleine McCann and the Epstein files. It was released with one of the recent drops. From July 23rd, 2019, it reads, "Dear Sirs," I don't know what that means. A 2019 documentary currently being shown on Netflix Canada entitled The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann is about the 4-year-old English girl who disappeared from Portugal in 2007 while on holiday with her parents and siblings. She's never been found. In Series 1, Episode 3, Portuguese journalists refer to a scandal that took place years earlier regarding child abuse in a Portuguese orphanage. It is referred to as the Pact of Silence. In connection with the orphanage, Casapia, a journalist, states that it is a known fact that American millionaires were flying into Portugal on private jets for the purpose of sexually abusing these children. This might be a line of inquiry that you wish to follow up. Yours truly, redacted. Was it likely that Epstein himself was involved in the Madeleine McCann abduction? Using the J files, which is like it's like a website that someone put together where you can search through Jeffrey Epstein's emails, his flight logs, look at his photos. If you're interested in the Epstein stuff, you obviously already know about it. I used the J files to look through his flight logs. Epstein was in multiple places in May of 2007, but he did not pass through Portugal. He was in Paris around the time of her disappearance, and as far as I can tell, there was nobody accompanying him on this trip. And again, Maxwell was in New York in early May 2007, but I mentioned this earlier, Epstein had connections everywhere, and just because his personal timeline as well as Ghislaine's doesn't add up with Madeleine's, doesn't mean he's not involved, and it is very likely he could still be possibly involved, as Portugal was known, as I just said in the email, by elites to be used as a sex trafficking ring kind of thing at that time. And Epstein had ties to the British government. So, her parents, Gary and Kate McCann, have been under constant scrutiny since Madeleine's disappearance, and for, in my opinion, good reason, as they do appear sketchy in the documentaries about her, and their stories very much lack consistency. And in the Netflix documentary, The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann, it basically says that someone from the resort had alerted a child trafficking ring, the leader of one or something. They obviously took Madeleine, and the whole thing was planned, but she wasn't murdered first thing. They saw the amount of media attention that she was receiving and then killed her. Also, it didn't help that she had a very recognizable eye mark, so it would have been very difficult to disguise Madeleine, but her parents being neglectful as fuck is undeniable. However, whether they are directly linked to their daughter's disappearance is a conversation we don't have a definitive answer to. We just have theories and what we know about what they said and lied about and claimed happened that didn't happen. I watched the Netflix documentary many years ago in like 2022. I believe I was in sophomore year. And it unsettled me because of what she went through, obviously, but also just the way that her parents acted. Let's think about this from a different standpoint that doesn't have to do with German pedophiles or Epstein, but instead her parents. For a very long time, a rumor about her parents went around that they sedated their children before going to dinner. For the sake of this argument, let's just say that this is true. Let's say that they gave Madeleine a little bit too much. Madeleine goes to sleep, dies in her sleep, and her parents come back to find their daughter deceased. They overdose their own daughter. They realize this. Maybe they have a minute where they freak out, but very quickly they realize that this needs to be covered up. They scramble for a story, and they try to cover up the body and dispose of her. How they may have done it in this hypothetical situation, we don't know because we haven't found a body. However, they do it, and they create an abduction story, and that's what we have today. Before I get told I'm being insensitive for talking about her presumably innocent parents, I want to know what it is that you think happened. I'm not saying her parents are guilty, don't think I'm saying that, but I'm also not saying they aren't. Look at this case, okay, from each and every perspective. From the possibly reaching possibility that she was a victim of Epstein, to the maybe very likely possibility that this was a cover-up. Also, regardless, it is strange to leave your child alone in a room to sleep. I don't care how safe you think it is. I don't care if you can see the room before you're having dinner or if it's a custom in your country. You're not in your country. You can't be that careless. It's just a strange thing to do, okay? The McCanns claimed that the window was found open and the curtains were blowing in the wind, with the shutters raised. And they also claimed that the shutters were broken from the outside. However, this raised questions from critics and investigators, noting that these shutters were in fact not broken. And this might not be evidence, but rather that they made up this story to avoid certain criticisms from the press. Especially because at first they claimed the front door was locked, and then later admitted that it was unlocked. Just a little bit suspicious, because lying puts a strain on an investigation. And wouldn't you just want to find your daughter? Who gives a fuck if the shutters weren't broken? Who gives a fuck? Admit you were wrong so that we can try to find your daughter and not put a hindrance on the investigation. It's as simple as admitting you left the door unlocked. Also, the window, and this is where shit gets very interesting. The window could only be opened from the inside. So I mean this in the kindest, just like friendliest way possible. What the fuck was Kate McCann talking about? And why did she lie about the windows originally being opened, knowing that this is literally impossible to do from the outside? So now, let's think about this from the opposite perspective. For now, the previously mentioned rumor is false. The McCanns did not drug their children that night. This then leads us to a new string of questions. Was the front door to the bedroom locked or not? Who fucking knows? It's not like Kate and Gary are gonna tell us. The shutters weren't broken like they originally claimed. We don't know if the door was locked or not. We don't know how the window opened, as it could only open from the inside, and there were no signs of forced entry. The only real possibility is they did, in fact, leave the front door unlocked. An abductor came in through the front door, took Madeleine from her bed, opened the window, and left. Hence, the open window, open shutter, to curtains flowing in the wind. And the unlocked door. That seems like the most likely scenario. So what was all this hooting and hollering that Kate and Gary were doing? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would they lie about the door? This is an interesting thought, though, because they lied because they knew they were going to be under scrutiny from the press and the public for being neglectful parents. But then they lied, and they made up the shutters and the window and the door, and that just all made them look guilty, as if they killed their kid. So it completely backfired. The opposite of what they wanted to happen happened. It would have just been easier for them to admit they left the front door unlocked. Now let's talk about the hire car. Oh, fuck. Kate and Gary hired a rental car, a Renault Silver hatchback in Portugal on May 27, 2007, 25 days after their daughter's disappearance. British forensic scientists found Madeleine's DNA in the car of the trunk. Kate and Gary suggested that the DNA could have been from one of her toys, but it was blood. It was blood that they found in the trunk. And this is why Portuguese authorities labeled them official suspects in the case for a while, because, it was later lifted. But do you want to know why that made them suspects in the case? Because it's fucking weird. Weird that her DNA is in the car, yes, but also the fact that it makes no sense. I've heard people say maybe her DNA was in the car because her abductor rented that car before her parents. Okay, coincidence. How convenient for her parents, first of all. And by law, rental agents have to keep all records of rental agreements for at least 7 years, so this case would have been done and closed a long time ago. If, by some magical circumstance, the McCanns rented the same car that was used by their daughter's kidnapper. This is not doing anything for Kate and Gary. This only makes them look more at guilt, at fault. They could have stashed her body, reported her missing, and then rented the car to dispose of her body. Why would they wait almost a month, in this case a month of decomposition, to get rid of their daughter's body? Not to get like too gory here, but this is a true crime channel, so I'm gonna get a little gory here for a minute. A month of decomposition is considered a very advanced stage of decomposition. Most soft tissue becomes decomposed or turns into liquid, leaving bones, cartilage, and some dry skin. The body will lose significant mass, and in warmer conditions, skeletization could possibly be occurring. Because Madeleine was so young, 3-4 years old, there would already have been skeletal remains. So now, let's back up. Find Madeleine dead. Stash her body. Unlikely, because where would they stash it without it being... Oh, this is so morbid. This is so morbid. Okay. The smell of a decomposing corpse. It is a very distinct smell, and it's not like they would have been able to hide that from authorities. They stash her body. Okay. They wait almost a month after to hire a rental car, and then put her almost fully decomposed or fully decomposed body inside of it to dispose of her. It is one thing to accidentally drug your kid, but having to fully dispose of their decomposed body and skeletal remains is on another level of fucked. And at that point, you are not just a neglectful parent who made a mistake. You are a psychopath, and that is why this scenario is unlikely. Let's talk about the cadaver and blood dogs, shall we? Eddie and Keela, beautiful Eddie and Keela. They were alerted to the scent of death and human blood in the apartment where Madeleine vanished. And they were alerted to the scent of death and human blood in the rental car that was rented by her parents weeks later. This does not really mean that the McCanns are guilty, because blood and cadaver dogs can be wrong a lot of the time. If they were always 100% correct, we would have no missing bodies or people. The dogs sniffed out several areas in the apartment and car, including the trunk, and investigators later tested these spots for blood. Yada yada. The only spot that came back positive for blood was the trunk, which might be the most important place for it to be positive, but listen, whatever. These are the strongest pieces of information that would make the McCanns guilty. They are also the two pieces of information in the case that are mostly talked about and denied. The two pieces of information that could make them look guilty are also the two that people deny the most. It's funny how that works, isn't it? Let's circle back to Christian Bruckner, and I'm gonna just play that up for a minute. It's interesting to me that he was chosen as a perpetrator in this case. He's known to be a very sloppy criminal, and he definitely is not some like crazy fucked up mastermind. Fucked up, yes, but he's not like a crazy mastermind. He has never been able to hide his crimes, but we're just supposed to believe that he kidnapped Madeleine, committed probably unspeakable things to her, covered up a crime like this for all these years under a lot of pressure. It's not like he became a criminal mastermind overnight. It's not like May 6th, he woke up an idiot, and then May 7th, suddenly he could abduct a little girl and then hide it from the public for 17 years. That's not how that works. This is incredibly unlikely. And if you think about it, the only circumstantial evidence they're linking him to the case is just the fact that he was in Portugal near the hotel that night. And if we think about it like that, wouldn't that make every pedophile or sex offender within a 30-mile distance from the Ocean Club Resort a possible suspect in the case? That's a lot of suspects. That's a lot of suspects, especially in Portugal. Their sex offender list is not public, but I have heard things, okay? And if anything, most of the things linking him to Madeleine could be explained as coincidence. The Christian Bruckner thing, it feels as if German authorities just found a dipshit criminal and decided to pin it on him. Which, I mean, lazy would be lazy, but it's very common with true crime cases these days. The night that she went missing, I think I briefly mentioned this, a man was seen by two separate people carrying a child that looked like Madeleine, a blonde girl in the same pajamas. The Smith family, when walking home from the bar, saw him carrying a child away from the scene of the crime. He's never come forward, which is really suspicious because I feel like if you were being made out to be the abductor of a girl that her case blew up, you would want to come forward and clear your name. So this does point to the possibility that he is, in fact, her abductor. And now for my take on the Madeleine McCann case. I think that Kate and Gary were very neglectful of their children that night. This is one of those cases where it's like, and this is very similar to like the Elisa Lam case, where like the more you learn about it, the less you learn. And I just did a video on Elisa Lam. If you're interested in more like missing persons cases, you should go watch my Elisa Lam video. And then I did do a video about just missing people from the 2000s. Anyway, my take on Madeleine McCann. I don't know. This is a hard case because there are so many things that could be likely and could be unlikely. I have given you all the information that I could round up about this case, so I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on Saturday, I hope, with a reaction video. Stay safe out there, and I mean that too. Please subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you soon.